How you guys doing? This is very important in reference to the identities of satellite controllers. It is very important that every ethnicity and race know which people are the satellite controllers. Because nobody wants to be blamed for what some other satellite controller is doing or whatever race is doing what they're doing. You understand that? No, I have not received any of the monies from the Treasury. If they tried to send any monies, I've not received nothing. From nowhere. Didn't receive any letters from any friends or celebrities or females that are friends of mine. Haven't received nothing at all. Yet, at all. Past 22 plus years, you know. If anybody sent anything in the mail, if anybody dropped off any money anywhere, for me, didn't receive none of it. Don't forget I'm tax-free, too. So, you know, if somebody sent me money and then they claimed they thought I owed them something, no, that's not how things work. You're supposed to write it off on your taxes. Because the government's blocking me from my money, and the government was stealing money from my cards, my debit cards, or, you know, my work pay cards. They've been doing that for a long time. And those people have to get charged. And if anybody's wondering, you know, because some people know what the situation is, when I went to stores and businesses and they were supposed to credit back my card, nothing ever got credited back on there. So if anybody's wondering, you know, if I went to a department store or went to a business, and that's obviously why one of the reasons why I've had to work at places, and it's endangerment against the government, because the government knew that my parents had accounts set up for me and trust funds set up for me, and plus I'm the owner of the companies that I was supposed to receive revenues every time revenues came in, you know, in reference to, you know, the companies or dividends and things like that. But, you know, my mother and father even had a standard form. It was a standard living style that if my lifestyle had looked like I was living a poor lifestyle, there were supposed to be lawsuits against the government. You know that, right? Standard value of style. You mean like I'm supposed to have a budget for all kinds of different things. If I didn't have like access to a certain amount of money per day, that means the government was holding me hostage or the government was stealing my money. You guys know that, right? And there's even documents at the Treasury and Supreme Court too. And I don't know if the United Nations has copies of that or not. But I'm tax-free because of a lot of reasons. Because the government tried to murder me when I was a little boy, and the government tried to steal my mother and father's estates. And they tried to steal the stores and companies and businesses and grocery stores, and they're doing hiccups and other things. So, you know, in reference to the situation, my parents had monies and accounts set up for me that I was supposed to have access to on a daily basis. Or, you know, whenever I'd go to the bank to get access to monies. But the government's been blocking me from that, and they've been using impersonators trying to steal my identity. And they damaged my teeth, trying to call me the bad guy, trying to call me the imposter or the fake, when their government agents are the fucking fakes. The ones that have been doing this to me. And those people need to go to court. And their DNA has to get tested so, you know, everybody knows who they are. The people that are trying to steal my identity, people trying to steal my mother and father's companies and land that I'm the owner of because my parents gave me everything. And in reference to other races or ethnicities trying to slander my intellect or trying to slander my lifestyle or trying to slander who I am, those people need to get put into court. Their race or ethnicity does not have a right judging me. I'm the rightful owner of my mother and father's estates. Doesn't matter who they are or where they came from. I'm the owner no matter what. They don't have a right slandering my character, trying to steal my land, slandering my character, trying to steal control of my wealth, or blocking me from my wealth that my parents had gave to me, or my revenues or dividends that I was supposed to have received. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter where they came from, even if they're another American. If they're a politician, they get impeached. My parents did not owe anybody nothing. My parents had no debts. And the government conspiring against my mother and father's estates, there's even documents that the government is not allowed to make my mother and father's estates into their political fight. There's even documents to say if the government tries to contest my ownership, they have to have court cases, and those politicians get charged for treason. I'm the rightful owner. So in reference to whoever they are trying to slander my character, because they were trying to steal land, or they were trying to steal property, or they were trying to steal control, or they were trying to steal monies or revenues, they have to get prosecuted. That's just the facts. That's the way it's always going to be. Because those are the guidelines of factual history of estates in America and European history and American history plus. So they do not have any legal right depriving me of my rights of being at my mother and father's mansions. My parents even had records and documents that say I was supposed to be at my mother and father's mansions. And the government's got to get sued every single day that they're blocking me from my mother and father's mansions. They have to get prosecuted and sued for blocking me from my money and accounts that my parents had set up for me at banks. They're going to get prosecuted for all kinds of things, whoever these bad people are. And obviously, the government blocking me from monies where I've had to work, the government has to get charged for endangerment, because the government usually sets up their way of trying to murder off rich people or famous people or good-looking people or healthy people, because they're trying to run people into the ground, because they're trying to use impersonators in the future and the past. They tried to use impersonators to steal my mother and father's estates. I'm the only rightful owner, and that's the facts forever. So in reference to the violations of government blocking me from my mother and father's mansions, they need to find exactly who the person is that is doing it. And those people need to get arrested and put on trial. That's just the facts, man. That's what it's always got to be. That's the way it is forever. In American law. In factual history of bloodline history. I'm the only child of my mother and father, and I'm not allowed to give nothing away to children. If I had children, they're all illegitimate no matter what. And they won't have any ties of ownership of anything of my mother and father's estates. Or history of my family history, or any of my ownership of anything, which I'm the owner of my mother and father's estates. And my birth name is the same as my mother and father. And grandparents and certain acknowledgments of things. Lots of things of importance.